It was a tough week in the markets for me, but I did make it out alive, barely. Not in the green. My week did end up red. However, I managed to hold it together, right? And not spiral out of control and do a bunch of things that I shouldn't be doing and digging myself into a very deep hole. I took 6 trades this week. I took 4, well, technically 5 back-to-back L's, but 2 L's on one day, 2 L's the day after that, no trades yesterday. Today I took an L and then I got 1 W to end the week. Literally 1 for 6, a 16% win rate. Horrendous, terrible, very, very not good. With that though, I did continue to manage my risk and only ended the week negative $80. I know, still not great. Like, obviously you don't want to end the week negative, but if it's got to be negative, I'd rather it be small, one trade worth, than being, way out of hand. So risk management continues to be my saving grace until I can just flow better and less stressed. The issue that I'm currently having is that I am having a lot of conflicting feelings in my head because I'm seeing this setup. So I know from my testing, right, that 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute break and retest on the 20 period moving average, like that's a good trade. Take the trade. That's my main setup. And then I'm seeing it. I've been noticing it more if that happens into a fair value gap, like that's a plus plus. Take it with even with an inversion, like that's a better setup, right? And when I'm getting these wins, I'm noticing like, okay, that's the setup that happened. Now the issue that I'm having is I am starting to like kind of pay more attention to lower time frame market structure shifts, and then that same exact setup happening but not in line with the moving averages. So essentially happening above the moving averages if it's a short, or below if it's a long. So it doesn't line up with my moving averages. And then even though I see the setup, I don't want to take it because I feel like if I take it and I get stopped out, well, then I took it against my strategy of using the moving averages. But that could and should be an essential second setup that I take. It's just I'm having a difficult time making that switch in my head to being okay with taking that setup because I know it's a good setup when it doesn't align with my moving averages. I'm trying to find the middle ground of where it is acceptable and not acceptable to take that trade if it's not a perfect 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute break and retest on the moving averages. And I'm always also trying to remember, like, moving averages are lagging, right? They're slightly behind. So sometimes, they just haven't got there yet. If I wait a little longer, maybe I get it, but then I'll have those trades that just from that spot that I saw, they'll go. And then it's just like an internal battle that I have going on right now. And it's hard because I feel, again, like if I do take it and I get stopped out, I put myself in that headspace of saying, well, I shouldn't have taken it. The moving averages weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing yet, But then if I do take it, like I took one today that was like halfway there with the moving averages, which I'll show you guys in a second. Then I take it and it's like, you see, the setup is there. I should just take the trade. So it's just like, it's a back and forth right now. Anyway, with that one trade, I did bring the, like I said, I still ended the week negative 80. I did bring the month back to like $18 green. I'm literally just like super break even right now. This first quarter has been very rough for me, which is interesting because last quarter, with the exception of February, was not rough. Like I had a really good January and a really good March. February was my only bad month, right? So yeah, we're just chugging along. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to continue to show up because again and again, I could just see where the market wants to go, where it wants to target. I'm just still working on getting in those trades, which again, today, this trade that I took, which you'll see here in a second, literally was the perfect entry for the downside move, another $5 lower than I got out. But I had to like, the market wasn't really moving like that today, and it's like, do I want to just hold on and hope that it just keeps falling, or do I want to take the smart exit where it's most likely to go to and then, call it a day with a good trade? So, of course, looking at it now, after the fact, I can say, well, I'm an idiot. I sold and I could have gotten another $300-400, right? But I didn't. If it would have reversed there, I would have said, well, yeah, I'm a genius. I played it smart. So it's very much like a double-edged sword of how you look at the trades depending on what happens after the fact. And I just need to keep reminding myself that, like, as long as I could see it and tighten up my entries, then eventually I will have more contracts and I'll be able to hold for longer moves. But right now it's about taking the smart exits and just like, yeah, I saw somebody write a quote under somebody's video the other day. It was something like, will this action increase or decrease the likelihood that I get to my goal? So I like that. I thought it was a good thing to think of, because me taking the proper exit is the right thing to do. Me holding on for dear life and hoping that it continues to drop, not so much the right thing to do. Even especially, you know, and it's hard when you look at it and be like, oh wow, well that would just give me like a really nice buffer for the quarter, or for, well, the quarter's coming to an end, but for the month, whatever. But it's just uncertain, right? You don't know. You don't know that it's going to keep going. You don't know if it's going to pop back up. In this case, it kept going and I left a lot on the table. However, it could have very easily have popped up and I could have gotten stopped out for loss. Just have to keep doing what I think is best in the moment for my future self, and eventually, you know, hopefully all the pieces will fall together. Let's check out these trades. I just recorded a whole freaking clip and it got deleted. Anyway, for the week, down $80, terrible 16% win rate. All this is bad except for my win to loss is good. For the month, only up $18, but hey, up is up. Every time I see this, I just remind myself to keep going. And yeah, if I could just get a nice string of full wins, right? Because I got some 4 days of wins here, but they were just not full TPs. But little by little, little by little. Okay, let's go into the only trade for the week that I should not have taken was this trade right here. And it was just in the wrong position. I took a short. I did realize after I took it, once this guy got wicked back up, that I was like, I should not have taken this trade, and I cut my risk pretty short. So 1 minute was wrong position, 2 minute was wrong position, 5 minute was wrong position. Yeah, I entered based off of the 1 minute inversion, but I just didn't wait for a clear like pop-up retest rejection, and should have been avoided. I only had 2 reasons to take it, and all these not good reasons to take it, so not good. However, if you look earlier in the day, this is the trade that I should have taken, which is the setup that I'm seeing again and again. 15-minute gap, taps into the gap, go down on the 5 minute. We also have a gap, comes in, starts rejecting here. On the 2 minute, we inverse here, boom, right there. On the 1 minute, also inverses and starts rejecting. This trade lines, this is the same gap trade, and it lines up with the moving averages, which is what you'll see is what I'm having difficulty with the trade that I took today, because it's the same exact setup, but just not aligning with the moving averages yet. So that's kind of the internal conflict that I'm having right now, because it's the same setup. It's just whether or not the moving averages are aligning with it to make it like A++ kind of setup. So should have taken this, didn't take it. I don't remember why. I would have to go back and look, but yeah, whatever. So now for today's trades. First trade was an L. I am fine with it. It was a 5 minute, 15 minute gap, inverted fair value gap. I did get some slippage, which sucked, but all right. So on the 15 minute, I was waiting for us to come back into this gap, tap, and then reject. So when we were on here, it was slightly different than that setup that I just showed you guys, but it just barely tapped into the 15 minute, and we had been consolidating here, and then we had this huge wick up and it got rejected. So when it got rejected and I had the 5 minute break and retest, that's when I entered. The 2 minute got back below, and 1 minute got back below and inversed this gap. But as you can see, it was very short-lived and I got stopped. We went higher one more time, taking out that swing point. I actually missed a trade this morning, which pissed me off. It was this kind of the same exact setup up here. We had, I'm going to delete this guy for now. We had this 15-minute gap right here, right? Boom, 15-minute gap, came into it. On the 5 minute, we then had, I'm going to just move this 5 minute gap right here. Came back into it and tapped right here, looking for entries there. This, I should have entered here. I did not enter because I didn't want to trade into previous day low, which was right literally right there. So I didn't want to take a trade into the previous day low, which clearly it didn't give a shit about previous day low. But as you can see, that was the same exact trade. Then we went up, this another 2 minute gap here, rejection on the 2 minute. On the 1 minute inverse, it did pop back into this gap here. I guess I could have waited for that and entered, but sometimes I feel like it will just go off there. So I guess that's a so-so. But look, this trade even lined up with moving average there on the 1 minute, moving average on the 2 minute, and moving average on the 5 minute. So I should have just taken it if it was the previous day low as the only thing, you know, holding me back. But then again, this is like one of those trades that you look at and it's like, well, I'm saying that because it did work out perfectly. But if it would have bounced, I would have said like, oh, okay, I was smart for not trading into previous day low. So it's a battle. Anyway, so that was a trade I lost on, and I got freaking $10 of slippage, but whatever. And then the trade that I took was the same exact setup. However, it wasn't perfectly in line with moving averages, which is why I'm kind of like so about it and kind of thinking like, well, was it a good trade or was it a trade I should have waited longer on? And we won't talk about how it went and smacked all of the lower liquidity that I had. That just goes back to what I said on taking the smart exit, and this just makes me want to cry, but it's fine. We'll just keep going. Anyway, like I said, I was waiting for that 15-minute tap in this gap right here. Okay, and then so it was coming up 15-minute. I was watching this candle reject, but I was scared because I just was. I don't know what this is. Let me just delete this. I was watching that reject, and then it left this 5-minute gap. That 15-minute rejection candle left this 5-minute gap. That's what I was waiting for it to come back in and retap. Okay, so I took the trade here on this rejection, right? But look, so it was fine with the 5-minute, right? The 5-minute was kind of trading flat, so it's fine. 5-minute rejection. 2-minute, it was still kind of above. So I know it's not like a solid line. I'm trying to think about it as like thick bands, right? The trader I watched moving averages from, Oliver Velez, kind of says to treat them as like almost ropes, like boxing ropes. So I guess you would kind of consider this, you know, kind of like a still in range of around the moving average, and it was trending down. So the 2 minutes, not so bad. The 1 minute, it was just completely up here when it was down here. But then I try to go to like, well, maybe I shouldn't really put as much emphasis on the 1 minute, right? Because it's like a lot finickier than the other moving averages that, the other time frames that are higher that hold more weight, right? So yeah, I mean, I entered, literally the entry was freaking perfect. But again, I'm saying that because the trade worked out. If it wouldn't have worked out, would I have then said, you know, well, I shouldn't have entered up here on the 1 minute or the 2 minute, right? But like, it was a good entry. It just doesn't perfectly align with the moving averages all aligning. So maybe the better entry would have been on this over here. This candle would have been a safer entry, which this is the same exact setup that I was showing earlier. Everything else was the same, and then the 1 minute dropped and it tapped back into the 1 minute gap before going. So I have to pay attention if this happens more often than not, where it does kind of retap into that 1 minute fair value gap, then maybe I'll take that, because then I would have been on the 1 minute there. I would have been rejecting on the 1 minute here and rejecting on the 5 minute here. So that 110 bar would have potentially been a better entry, or like a more confirmed entry, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I was targeting not this low, but these lows right here, right before that one, in case it just wanted to take all of this and then go. I did, like I said, have all of this lined with my liquidity levels that it could possibly target, But I was trying to be smart and conservative and take the good clean play and not be greedy. It was a good trade, like looking at it after the fact, and yeah, I think I just need to kind of work out some criteria for myself on what is and isn't an acceptable entry if it's not aligning with my moving averages. I think that will help my brain like process it, because like I said, like it was a great trade, and if you look at it not thinking about the moving averages, like it was it was spot on, right? But because it wasn't like 100% aligned with all my moving averages, I feel like I did something wrong. And I don't, even though I feel like that, I don't think I did. So I just need to find some acceptable reasons on when I can go against the moving averages, kind of thing, if that makes sense. Anyway, not thriving yet, but I am surviving. I will be back next week, and I will be back the week after that and the week after that, because I'm not stopping. I'm gonna get this. And when I do, I'm going to be so happy that I did not give up on myself. Something I really can't wait to do, because I know like in the future when I'm posting larger profits and stuff, there's gonna be it's just the way that it is in trading. People are gonna be saying, whatever, I'm fake and everything. I can't wait to I'm gonna have the day one of not removing my stops video, the link to it, just copy pasted in my notes. So that way, whenever somebody says something, I could just send the link to day one and have them start at the beginning of the shitstorm that I've been through. Anyway, yeah, I will see you guys next week. Later.